Yeah, Vidya.
Welcome back to Cyber Talk with Cyber GRC. Today we are decoding the holy trinity of digital trust. ISO 27001 for information security, ISO 27 what is that 27701 privacy management, and ISO 42001 for AI governance. In a world where AI depends on data and data depends on trust, these three standards together create a rock solid foundation for secure, ethical, and compliant organization. Let's dive into the most common questions companies ask when deciding to implement them. Okay, so let's move on to our first question. Sir, I would like to ask you what are ISO 27001, ISO 27701, and ISO 42001 all about?
Sure, Vidya. That is a very good question to start with, actually, because people would like to first understand what this standard is all about that we are talking about, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
here on the screen, basically, let me show you some details regarding the three standards. So these are the three standards that we are talking about. You see ISO 27001 also, 27701 also, and
Mm-hmm.
42001 also, right? So
Okay.
as you see on the screen, Vidya, the primary focus of 27001 is basically to manage information security. Okay. And the
Yes.
primary focus of 27701 is basically to manage privacy. Okay. Which we
Yeah.
also discussed about in the DPDP Act, if you remember, right? Privacy of
Hmm.
personal data. So that is the
Yes.
focus of 27701. And ISO 42001 is basically all about AI management system, like how we are
Okay.
governing the AI. If you remember, we discussed about governance of AI, right? So that is about
Yes.
ISO 42001. So
Mm-hmm.
core objective here is basically for ISO 27001 is to safeguard all the information security assets, and
Mm-hmm.
core objective for 27701 is to build privacy in an organization, because you know that new laws are coming, GDPR is there, DPDP is there, right? So that is where
Yes.
more and more compliances are coming around that. And similarly, core objective for ISO 42001 is basically to have a responsible AI, to have a proper governance around the AI in the organization, right? And the scope of all these three, basically, as you can see, the scope for 27001 is basically all the information assets. Now in 27001, what is the good part of it is that you have any information which can be included in 27001. It can be digital, it can be non-digital, right? But in
Mm-hmm.
27701, basically, when we talk about DPDP and compliances and all, there we are only talking about the digital personal data. Okay, so that is
Okay.
one difference that we need to look at. However, for 2001, the scope basically applies to any AI system, that the organization is developing, creating, using, or in any capacity. Basically, if they are using the AI system, this basically applies to the organization. So this is basically all the three categories you saw, differences you saw, okay, in
Yeah.
all the three standards. So this is basically about it. Yeah.
Okay. So if 27001 secures the data, 27701 respect the data, right? And
Uh,
20
27701 is about
yeah.
privacy, DPDP, personal data. Remember, digital
Okay.
personal data.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Acha. Okay.
Third one is about AI
Okay. Okay.
governance.
My
42001. Yeah,
second question is why should an organization Okay, okay, got it.
yeah, yeah,
My
yeah.
second question is why should an organization implement all three together?
Yeah. So this is a very good question, Vidya, and this is where I wanted to bring this particular, slide on the stage. So, as you can see, if any organization wants to have a responsible AI, okay, and for that to work, actually you need to have 27001 also, and you need to have 27701 also. These are the things that you
Hmm.
need to have. Okay, you can't bypass them. Okay, and we will see the
Okay.
disadvantages of bypassing them also. and we will see the
Hmm.
advantages of implementing all these three together also, like you asked, right? So first
Yeah.
of all, let us see the advantages of basically implementing all these three together, and then we'll
Hmm.
see what if the organization does not implement them together. So these are basically five of the main advantages if you actually
Hmm.
deliver them together, right? So basically,
Definitely.
you have a unified digital trust framework because you are taking care of data, you're taking care of privacy, you're taking care of AI all at once. So basically, your trust framework is now unified, and then you have integrated risk management, which means that a single consolidated risk register you can create basically covering all the three aspects, which is basically a very good advantage for any organization. Rather than doing the task three times, you can do it once, right? And
Yeah.
then for regulatory and ethical compliance also, as we all have already seen that major compliances is around the privacy of the data and all that. So that way also you are covered. For example, even the AI, if you are using any personal information from any customers or users, so that way also you are
Hmm.
covered in that. And definitely it is basically increasing the efficiency and cost optimization, because most of the clauses, the structure of the clauses is same. Okay, that is where it increases the efficiency, and definitely competitive advantage is there when any company will implement all these three together. Okay, now let me
Okay.
show you the risk also. If we do not do
Yeah.
this together, what will be the issues there,
Yes.
because that is also good to know, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly. Definitely.
let me quickly show you. So now if we implement ISO for 2001 without
Hmm.
27001 and 27701, so these are the disadvantages you see. First of all, without 27001, if your data is not protected, do you think you can go
Hmm.
ahead with the AI? The answer is no, right? You can't go ahead with the AI if your data is not ready. Okay, so that is where
Yes.
Information Security Foundation has to be there. It is not if and but, it has to be there, right? So that is where if your Information Security Foundation is missing, no matter how much AI you govern, you will not be able to govern it actually. That's the reality, right? So then after that you have privacy and data protection gaps basically. Okay, you will not be able to control the personal information. If you do not have a privacy standard, how will you control the personal information? It's not possible, right? So that is where privacy and data protection 27701 also comes into play. And without 27701, again this will be a big gap, right, for any organization.
Hmm.
So again, this is a risk. Then the third risk is basically, if you do not have these two standards, then how will you do the risk management? Because in the risk management, you need to talk about the data that you are feeding into the AI, right? Because AI works on data.
Hmm.
So how
Hmm.
will you justify whether your data is from the right sources, whether your data is confidential and only certain people can access the data and all those things? So basically, at a primary level, these are the disadvantages. Definitely, we have more disadvantages also, as you can see here. But primarily, these are the three that organizations should actually have to worry about if they are not implementing these three basically together. Okay, so these are basically the risks that we are talking
Okay.
about. Yeah.
Acha. What kind of business advantage does the integration brings?
Yeah, like I mentioned, Vidya, these are the basically advantages for any business if they want to basically bridge all these three together. Okay, these are the advantages.
Okay. Basically, in short, compliance became your competitive advantage, right?
That is true. That is true. Yes. And once you implement all the three together, it basically
Huh.
increases the reputation of the company at the same time, and it reduces the effort also, right? Okay, because
Okay.
all the
Yeah.
all the three standards have some commonalities as well. For example, the clause structure is the same, right? And that is
Hmm.
where you get a lot of advantage when you implement all these
Huh.
three together. And like I
Okay.
showed you this particular this particular slide here, if you
Hmm.
see, without having 27001 and 27701, it is practically impossible to have a responsible AI. Let me be very clear. Anybody who is watching this, guys, please make a note of this. If anybody says that you can implement ISO for 2001 without having 27001, please give them my number. It is on my LinkedIn profile, and let me also understand how they are able to do that. Okay, because that is not achievable. Let me be very clear on that. Okay, so data governance always will be coming first, and then you will have the AI governance on top of that. So yeah, that is about it, Vidya.
Can you share a practical example of it, that how this works?
Yeah, definitely. So basically, take any example. You basically take a healthcare startup company, right? Basically
Hmm.
dealing with AI for medical diagnosis. Okay. So basically, for if you are using AI for medical diagnosis, you basically need all your patient data, right, in order to do the
Okay,
diagnosis.
yes.
Basically, without the patient data, how will you do the diagnosis, right? So
Yeah.
now this patient data, when you're talking about patient data, this has to be secured, right? It's not like anybody
Yes.
who is roaming around in the hospital would be having access to this patient data, right? It is not possible.
Correct.
So then you
Yes.
have to secure the data, you have to put access controls around it, you have to put encryption around it. So this is
Hmm.
where ISO 27001 now comes into play, right? I hope you must be able to understand now.
Yeah.
And then patient data, as the name suggests, can we have a patient data without privacy? Is that possible?
No.
No, because patient data is the most critical, personal data for any individual. Like you would never like
Yes.
to disclose what all ailments you had, like 5 years ago to anybody. Like, you won't be comfortable doing that, right?
Yeah.
So that is a big privacy issue. So to 27701 again here comes into play, where they manage the patient consent and defines actually what lawful data processing is all about, and basically ensure the privacy rights of the patient under DPDP, GDPR, and all these compliances, right? And if you skip 27701, the lawsuits that will follow the hospital. You know that
Hmm.
it's a big fines. We
Hmm.
already saw that day. I think it was 250 crores, right? You saw that. So those big fines will then follow the company if they don't do that. Then ISO 42001 is now the third one that they have to implement, because they can't simply say that, okay, we are doing a medical diagnosis for our patient data. No, 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 no. They have to basically ensure that the AI model that they are using is basically transparent, explainable,
Hmm.
bias free, and all these things they can only do by actually implementing ISO 42001 only. There's no other way they can do that actually, right? So this is how you saw all the three coming together, right, for an organization, because otherwise it is not possible actually. Even if you skip even one of these, the entire thing will collapse actually.
Huh. Okay,
So
but
that is why,
is it
huh,
possible
yeah,
to implement all three management?
go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I was asking that is it possible implementing all three management system? Don't you think it's like too complex to do?
No, in fact, on the contrary, Vidya, it's easy to do if you do all three together. Because, as I mentioned, right,
Okay.
because the standard structure is the same. If you pick up ISO 27001 and if you see 42001, the standard structure is almost the same, right? There is no difference in the structure of the standard. There is no difference in the clauses. Most of the clauses also are actually relating to the same thing. However, the objective is different, right? The objective of ISO
Huh.
27001 is to safeguard information. The objective of
Hmm.
42001 is actually to make a responsible AI, AI that can
Okay.
actually be relied upon by people, by customers, by the organization itself. That is the main purpose of the for 2001. However, the clause structure is the same.
Okay. Which industries benefit the most from integrating these standards?
Like we saw, Vidya, any industry that is heavily based upon compliance, I would say
Hmm.
banking, hospitality, all these industries that are heavy on compliances definitely have to look at these, implementations from a integrated perspective. Okay, any fintech, any health tech, ed tech, these are basically the industries that will actually get the
Okay.
most out of these. Yeah.
Okay. Great. That is. How does this help with the new laws like DPDP and as we discussed EU AI Act?
Right. So
Latest.
as we
Yeah.
yeah, as we discussed, Vidya, 27701 is basically helping us to comply with the DPDP Act, and
Yeah.
similarly, ISO for 2001 is basically the foundation on which you can say that you are, actually complying with the EUAI Act also. Because if you see the EUAI Act, most of the provisions, 70 to 80% of the provisions already covered in the ISO for 2001. Most of them are there.
Okay.
Yes.
Acha. So, can we say that together they create a compliance backbone? You are always
Definitely,
audit ready,
definitely
no
yes,
matter what
definitely yes.
new regulations
Yeah.
come, right?
Yes, yes, definitely.
So, how can companies practically start their journey?
Yeah, this is now a very good question to anybody who is watching. So initially, like I showed you this diagram again and again, let me refer to that again. See, without 27,001, you can't do it. Vidya, very simple, right? You are also able to see that. Without 27,001 is really difficult to basically, implement all these things. It's not possible actually. So your first step, I would suggest, is actually go with 27,001, then you go with 27701, and then on top of that you basically go with 42001. And again, if some organization wants to actually combine all these three and do an integrated approach where basically all three you want to apply simultaneously, that also can be done.
Mm,
It's not impossible, but again, I would say do it in a structured way that will be basically,
mm,
I would say, more result oriented rather than
mm.
doing it all together at one go. Definitely that will be easy for the organization, but I think from a result orientation perspective, they should do it one by one so that they also get the
Okay.
understanding, like why they are doing it
Yeah.
and why they are doing this way, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Moving on to my next question is, what's that one line message for business leaders?
So one line message for business leaders, I would say, is anybody who is basically uh, you know thinking of basically using AI or deploying AI in 2026, make sure you have ISO for 2001 in your organization. Make a note of this, because if you do not have
Okay.
ISO for 2001, you don't even imagine, the vastness of the
Huh,
uh, complications and the complexity involved around the AI. It's very complicated actually, right? So you need a standard to
huh.
basically govern that. Otherwise, वो robot out of hand चला जाएगा. Let me be very clear. Okay, so it will
Okay.
not remain in
Mm.
your control then. Yeah.
Mm. Is it that these three, we are discussing about these three are the pillars of the organization?
Definitely,
Is it
you can
so?
say that. Yes, Vidya, you can say that, because
Yeah.
without these three, nowadays it is difficult for any organization to basically say that they are following the compliances, they are basically compliant with the regulations, and they are basically following the due diligence. Without these three, they can't say that. No. So definitely, yes,
Yeah.
they have to have these three in order to be,
Okay.
relevant in the market. Also, I would say, because this is really
Okay.
nowadays, this is the minimum that I would say any organization needs to have nowadays. Yes,
So, basically, for rules and regulation and maintain that transparency with their customers, it is for that, right?
yes, that is right.
Or
That is
to
absolutely right.
okay,
Yeah,
okay, I got.
because let's take an example now, to what you said. Let's say
How
I'm
can yeah, please.
yeah, so let's say I'm actually asking you, I'm purchasing a chatbot from you, right? And this chatbot functionality is
Hmm,
basically that this chatbot is helping me to solve my help desk tier 1 tickets, right? For example, this
hmm,
chatbot is helping users for unlocking their passwords, resetting their accounts, and all those things which are day to day, right? Adding permissions for any particular server storage and all those things, right? Day to day activities, basic activities. If I'm getting that chatbot from you, if I'm getting that
hmm,
service from you, if I'm getting that product from you, and I need this particular service for my organization, so I need some assurance from your organization that how you have actually created this chatbot, and whether I can rely upon this or not. So if you say that
Exactly.
you're not ISO for 2001 compliant and you're basically creating something in house,
Uh,
definitely I would not be having that much trust, as a customer. So yes, it is to establish trust with the customer.
okay. How can professional learn this integration hands-on?
They have to join our courses. That is the only thing I can say right now, because as you know, Vidya, one of the batches is already about to complete in November, and the new batch is about to start for ISO for 2001, ISO 27001, and ISO 27701. And all three batches, by God's grace, are running heavily. So yeah, it's almost, I think, I would say they're almost closed by now. But yes, only one or two seats might be left, I'm not sure. But yes, if you want to inquire, definitely be in touch, and we can help you to make sure, if you want to join the batch. Maybe not November, then maybe in December you can join. But yes, they have to basically, in order to understand all these compliances, you need to have a hands on. So without understanding hands on, you will not be able to implement this in the organization. It is very difficult. See, I'll tell you a short example, Vidya. In
Yes.
the in this current batch, where we are understanding about AI. In one of the sessions, I asked them to create a scope of the AI management system. It's one of the requirement of the clauses. Okay,
Yes.
and none of them were able to actually understand how the scope has to be created in this one, because it is tricky, because it is new. Okay, because it is all about AI. So hardly anybody was able to forget about doing it. They were not able to understand what is the frame of mind they need actually to create the scope. So
Okay.
that is why I always say, go for practical. Don't go for theory, because theory, anybody can show you the slides, and at the end of the day, I think practical is more sensible, and
Yeah.
doable also, and achievable also, and result oriented also. So go
Correct.
for practical, and if you really want to
Mm.
go for practical, then you know where to go. So right, that
Okay.
is there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. That was it for today's podcast. Just one thing I would like to say to the audience: stay secure, stay private, and stay responsible. Because in today's world, it is really, really tough. And to learn these things, to learn new things, it is really important to come in this podcast every day in the morning, 9 to 10 a.m. So, yeah, see you all tomorrow. And do not forget to comment your doubt, whatever doubt you have, so that we can cover it in the next podcast. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Vidya. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you. Bye bye.